Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK radio network. Any opinions or comments made by any guest are their own, and they do not necessarily reflect any of the presenters or network's opinions.
The instruments here are going crazy.
I think what we've been suspecting all along may already be happening, Doctor.
I'm almost sure of it. Get into your choppers and head north immediately. Don't stop for a thing.
Good day to you. This is Sir Patrick Moore, and you're listening to the Paranormal UK Radio Network, the UK's biggest paranormal radio network, and this is Paranormal Dimensions with David Young.
Hello and welcome to another Paranormal Dimensions. Thank you for that introduction, Sir Patrick. Right, before we kick off once again, I'd like to say thank you for the messages, etc. that you send in. I had quite a nice message this week, quite a long one actually, from a previous guest named Terry Lovelace, who was on the show back in March. His book, Devil's Den, The Reckoning, was the subject of the show, and of course that was the follow-up to Incident at Devil's Den, for which he appeared on the show about a year or so before that. Here's part of Terry's message to me. He said a little bit before this, but I am now the proud recipient of my second certificate from Paranormal Dimensions, both on the wall of my studio. Thank you. I've been a guest on radio shows and podcasts over 150 times, and I've thoroughly enjoyed myself every time we visited on your PA UK show. The certificates are a huge thank you, the likes of which no one else in the industry does to my knowledge. And then he goes on. By the way, I'm going to host a show on my own on KGRA soon. I'm going to call it Uncertainty Principle with Terry Lovelace. I'm rebranding to lose the Devil's Den reference. It's an SEO headache. I'm not quite sure what SEO means, but in the US there are 10,000 bars and motorcycle clubs named the Devil's Den, and they all have a website. So I can see his problem when you've got a website. He says, I do intend to steal a page from your playbook and send every guest a laminated certificate of appreciation. It's such a kind and classy thing to do. Thanks again. It goes on with a few other bits. Anyway, it ends up with peace and best wishes, Terry. Well, Terry, I wish you the best of luck with your radio show. I hope it goes well. And yes, we can trade some guests. I'll send some your way, and hopefully you'll send some mine. I think I ought to explain a little bit about what Terry's talking about. For each guest I have on, I actually send them a certificate, a laminated certificate, just as a little thank you from me for coming on the show. So that's what Terry's referring to, and I'm very pleased to do it. In fact, I find it an honour to have the people on the show, and it's just my little way of saying thank you. So that's kind of what that's all about. As I've said before, if you would like to get in touch with me, my email address is davidyoung2qn@yahoo.co.uk. That's davidyoung2qn, all one word, @yahoo.co.uk. Okay, on to today's guest. Today's guest is Tony Topping. He's been on the show before, probably about a year or so ago. And also joining me on the show as co-host is the lovely Juliet Gregson once again. So I think the best thing I can do now is to have a little chat with Juliet before we bring Tony on. Hello, young Juliet. How are you?
I'm alright, thank you very much. And how are you, David?
I'm fine, thank you. It's been very hot today.
Sort of muggy.
Been absolutely steaming down here, I tell you.
It's not as bad here in the north, so.
Well, it's been really, 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 really muggy today, so sort of glad it's cooling down a little bit this evening. Anyway, now Tony Topping is our guest today, or this occasion, however you may be listening to this show. I don't know how much you know about Tony.
Well, I've seen him a few times actually at conferences.
Ah, right. So you do know who we're talking about. I mean, he's
indeed.
quite well known in the UFO field anyway, isn't he? So
He is indeed.
he's been on the show I think it must have been about a year ago. Which was quite interesting because his book was just about coming, or he's working on his book.
He was,
I'm not quite sure where we are with that now, so we'll be finding out where we are, at what stage we are with that book now, and finding out much more about Tony. But apart from that, how have you been? All right?
I have, thank you very much. And you?
I've been all right, yep, apart from being hot and steamy down here, like it's just about the weather. But as I say, it's just nice to be cool. I've got a nice cool beer in front of me, it's lovely. Out the fridge. Like for Malcolm last week, I'm sure he was gasping for a beer after we'd been speaking to him.
Probably.
Anyway, shall we bring Tony in?
I think we should.
Right, I shall open this great big creaky door again. Hello Tony, welcome to the show.
Hello, David. Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, you were here, well, I think it was about a year ago, was it? You were on the show?
Right.
Something like that. Anyway, before the world went pear-shaped anyway, wasn't it?
Yes, indeed.
And we've got Juliet with us tonight.
Hello.
Juliet, young Juliet. I think you've probably spoken to her before anyway.
Yes.
But anyway, Tony, how have you been?
Working very hard, mate, and, there's been so much happen, mate, with the UFO stuff, because I'm a contact guy. And it's like, to coin a military term, it's like manning a forward operating position, and it's like manning an FOP.
Yeah.
It really is absolutely hair-raising. There's no dressing it up, no getting away from it. I'm not gonna bull, and I'm not gonna embellish, and I'm not gonna,
I'll bleep that out later.
Tell it
don't
like
worry.
it is, you know.
No, we don't want to talk about that. No, I know you were telling me last time that you were quite, what's the right word, frightened about what was going on and everything. Are things still that hairy?
Well, I think, David, since I last spoke to you, my book is coming near to completion of being published now.
That was going to be my next question, but okay.
Yeah, it's going to be self-published, but we've got literature agent interest. But it is going to be, first it's going to be self-published, but God only knows where it'll go from there. And I suppose you could sum it up as I, Alien, the Mystery of the UFO Enigma, which is actually the autobiography of my life. And it's jaw-dropping, frankly. Even I look back at it and I just think, oh my God, there's a section in it to do with, first we called it I, Alien, the Secret UFO Chronicles.
Yeah.
And then we changed it, Neil changed it to I, Alien, the Mystery of the UFO Enigma. And in it are some journals with the time and date of them that I've never talked about in public. They've never seen the light of day. When my mother died, I was going to shove them in the bin in blinding rage. And I just kept them on my shelf, and now I've realised that it was part of a wider contact operation, which I call in the book SCOV, or SCOVs, which is Special Contact Operations. So we'll call it SCO, Special Contact Operation.
Yeah.
And so it explores my contact with the UFOs, the operation going on behind the scenes, with dates and times, and the continual liaison that is even happening only yesterday with them coming in over. It's what's going on behind the scenes and what the public are told, David, are two entirely different things.
Yeah, I think we've all come to realise that, haven't we?
We have, mate, and there's this mantra in the mainstream media of we do not know what they are, which is a load of just absolute farce. It really is, because they do know what they are. And with that, there's been consequences of them knowing what they are as well. So there's obviously at the moment in the mainstream media two camps. The Greer camp of they're not a threat, the Elizondo, Nick Pope camp of they are a threat, and I'm in the middle, so there you go, mate.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's not a case of...
Crazy.
I think the fact that they can't do anything about them, isn't it, rather than sort of they don't know what they are, you know.
Yeah, this is absolutely correct. I mean, the other night I was walking back, last Thursday, David, I've sent you the thing. Last Thursday I was walking back from the Marine Lake.
That's a photo.
I'll share that story with your listeners. So I'll actually, it's very important, this story I'll tell you about the Marine Lake. But anyway, I'm coming back from the Marine late last week. Suddenly, out of nowhere, this UAP comes flying out, ball of white light, looking directly at me, very low, silent, comes flying across and goes on its way again, a part of a 40-year liaison that I've had with them, and I believe they're from another dimension. And they're real.
There's that dimension again, Juliet. There you go.
Say again, mate.
So the dimension seems to come up a lot here, and I just sort of said to Juliet, is that dimension again, Juliet? Because it does seem to pop up a lot, doesn't it?
It has been in our most, quite a few of the interviews we've done with the ladies and gents over the past months. So that is quite interesting to hear it again, of course, from Tony.
But anyway, sorry, I interrupted you. Sorry,
not at all, mate. Not at all. So what you've got is also, you see, what you've got, David, with the UFO phenomenon is they are a threat. You've even got Navy pilots coming on and going, they are a threat.
Yeah.
But actually, in my book that I'm writing, the background to ESCOV is it's not a threat, it's a foundation. And we'll see in my book how this stuff that I'm involved with will develop in the future into something very big, into a very big communication network where information is exchanged between extraterrestrials and humans across a network that's very advanced and collapses the distance between time and space. And that's the concept of ESCOV. And by bizarre irony, I think all the experiences I've had in the early 90s, which were really hair-raising, and I didn't know why, was because those people behind those experiences knew I had written the book before I had. Right. And I've only just written the book, and that's the mind-blowing part about it. But the Marine Lake, we can get to talk about that with the UFO incident there, because I think it flies in the face of this threat narrative that's going on at the moment, David, which I have a distrust of, I really do.
Do you think they're building up to a fake alien invasion?
No, they can't pull it off, mate. No, there's absolutely no way in hell they'll pull that one off, and the reason for that is because what they're not telling the public, or rather, in fairness to them, they're the military, and in fairness to them, they can't wander around with their eyes closed. I get all that. But what is missing from the two equations is the fact that the US Navy know, and I thought they might disclose it, but they're not, that the US Navy does know that there's intelligences out there in the oceans similar to the film The Abyss. They're out there, definitely, and not only in our oceans, but in the oceans of other planets. And the second thing as well is this threat narrative and the extraterrestrial invasion. There's absolutely no way that any alien force, a single-handed extraterrestrial group, would do an invasion on us. That they couldn't pull it off. And the reason for this is because they're not a threat. The reason for this is because there are higher evolved extraterrestrial groups out there who would not permit that to happen. They are evolved. They have their own judiciaries like we do on Earth. There's a legal process like a galactic NATO. They couldn't pull it off. So one alien group trying an invasion could not do that without being seen by the other extraterrestrial groups who are watching mankind. It can't be done. And despite what people say, I just, after 40 years of experience, know, David, that's not the route it's going to go down. It's not the route it's going to go down. It's going to go down an entirely different route from it. It's going to take about 100 years, I would think, to get there, but it's going to go down a different route.
Interesting. So where do we go from there then?
Well, the thing is, I think the reason why I got this, David, this evolved thing, you'll hear Stephen Greer say, they're not a threat, they never have been a threat, blah, blah. But when you think about what is the airspace picture that we're looking at here would be the question that probably would be asked from the military. So what we're looking at flying around the skies above, well, if you divide it into alien Russia and alien NATO, and then in the middle of that, a Cold War, you'll find that my assessment is correct, that these alien groups have a Cold War with each other going on. We are told, David, of course, that aliens don't exist, but actually these ETs are using bases on Earth quite routinely. And that is where I think it's happening. And I do believe that we're being lied to, because I've seen far too much to realise that these beings behind the UFOs are highly intelligent and spiritually evolved people. They really are. I've seen it with my own two eyes, but I've also seen the opposite as well. I've seen the absolute hair-raising side of this. I've stared down the barrel of a gun, more or less, with it, as to the engine behind it, and I've got to be careful what I say.
Yeah, sure.
And I've got to be careful what I write in my book as well. And I've no idea when my book's published, David, if there might be a move to even ban the bloody thing, to be quite frank with you. I really have no idea, because it is, it's something that's never been done before.
Really?
Never been written of. You know, in all the UFO books you will see, this is something on steroids.
So who do you think would try to ban it? Like the government, or...?
I don't know. I really don't know whether they'll try to ban it or whether they'll... I just don't know what reception I'm going to get with it, because it details what was going on with me when I was having to deal with it all night and day. The extraterrestrial contact element, the Earth agency element trying to block the contact, the other Earth agency element who appear to be in communication with them, the communication not bound by the rules of time. So, for example, have you both seen the movie Tenet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And in that, have you noticed that the MOD scientist turns around to the agent and says, these bullets are flying backwards. It's backstreaming from the future, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, in terms of this network that I talk of called ESCOV, which is a Special Contact Operation Verisi, I call it in the book, there is no time reversal. So in the film Tenet, everything, when they were travelling back in time, they were coming at them in reverse. But with this system that they developed, there's none of that. It's real time. So the past and the future communicate in real time. It took me years to suss it out from the journals that I was looking at, you see. Can you imagine that concept, David?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's come up before, that somebody else, I can't remember who it was now, all happening at the same time, basically.
Correct.
It's all in different, but you can't see it all because it's all outside of the each equation, if you like.
Yeah. Even I, David, I can tell by your reaction that you're really going, good God. And even I'm slightly going, good God. And I've written the bloody book, but even I'm going, oh. You know, and we've had to put all the digital art into it as well, inspired by the aliens. It's been quite a journey.
Yeah, you
David,
sent me a little bit of that as well, and hopefully I can put a couple of pictures and things on the page. Yeah. I mean, blimey, Juliet, you've been very quiet. Have you been taking all that in?
Just listening. I'm just pondering. Two-pronged question, Tony. Would you say that you've been targeted by, for want of a better expression, the establishment? Or would you say, perhaps, rightly or wrongly, you might have been targeted by other people within ufology and the genre? How would you answer that?
That's a very good question, Lovey. That is a very good question.
I think it is.
The UFO situation with me, everybody looks but nobody notices, apart from guys like you and other people. What happens is the big names will actually shut the door in my face. They will look, but they won't notice. This includes Whitley Strieber, who ran a mile from what I've sent him. I mean, I sent him the journals and all the ESCOV, and he's run a mile, but now he's warming to me, kind of thing. Specifically, I wanted his guidance on some stuff that, in terms of the greys and all that kind of thing. So what I find at the moment is, although I have to say, of all people, Nick Pope, love him or hate him, has always been all right with me. He was the guy who gave me my first media gig.
Yeah.
You know, he gave me my first media gig with Channel 4. Yeah. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been on talk radio as I am now and doing my thing with it, and I have him to thank for that.
Yeah.
But in general, yes, there's one big name UFO researcher who came my way as if he or she was looking in a sweet shop at my intellectual property. And then was actually very rude.
Yeah, go on.
Very rude, and then put the phone down, Tony who. So I get that a lot now. Right. I get Tony who, you know, him, don't know about him, you know, I get that. I do, but I'm actually, I mean, David, I also get I'm a liar, I'm a fantasist, I get it all, and I don't give a I really, really do not give a toss.
You actually get that said to your face, do you, as well?
Oh, I've had all sorts, mate. But the thing is this, David, to bear in mind, because you're a decent guy, and the thing is this, to bear in mind, I hold the ace card. All I need, such is my liaison, all I need is for one of these UFOs to literally appear, the real deal kind of thing, to just suddenly appear. and I've got that elephant in the room effect that I need.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm in a powerful position with it, you see.
Yeah.
But it's been hair-raising, and you may not know, Juliet, but I was telling David on the last interview that I began life as a 10-year-old boy wandering to a scrapyard with scrap with a pram because my mum and dad were broke. And we lived in a house with no bathroom, an outside toilet and no heating. And abuse was the normal run-of-the-mill for me. I was abused regularly. Wasn't good.
Yeah,
You've discussed this.
It was a tough story to listen to, actually.
Yeah.
I've listened to the show, but you've actually discussed this with me on another show with Sarah Flippin' Heck.
Right.
Oh, thingy. Stunan, you know what I mean, David.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well done.
Carol.
Yeah.
Carol Noonan's the real name.
That's it.
Carol.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. All right, okay, yeah. So
Yes.
it
Not
kind
only
of like
find you do a lot of shows with her and with my brain's gone and just leaked with the names.
It's the heat, isn't it? I know.
But no, it's an incredibly moving transcript. For once again, Jenny, you have discussed that, and it's like I remember sort of listening before and thinking, wow.
Yeah.
You've had a bit of a rough deal is probably not the right words to use, but then again, it's like you've just said to me, or rather David, I'm still here, I just listen, I just tip in and then go, boop. I'm not one of these, it's like, okay, everybody has a reputation. I do. You do. Yeah. David does. But until I meet that person, and I have met you in person,
yes,
I don't go, this person's an idiot.
Yeah.
This person's barking.
That's where I find it's rather unfair. I mean, with that actual evidence, I mean, those to say that you're a liar, but to be honest, Tony, nobody knows actually what's happened to you. Only you know what's happened to you.
Only I know.
So nobody's got the right to call you a liar in that respect. Correct.
Because even then, David, even I get drip of information. Even the things in the UFOs are not clear on why they're doing what they're doing. Yeah. Nobody is clear on anything regarding the whole 40 years of it. Nobody has been clear to me as to why it's been going on. I mean, at a time when I'd lost my mother to dementia, I'd looked after her for 8 years, and at a time when I'd moved house and had my operation, I had to move house. I'd lost everything. I moved my house.
Condolences for that, by the way. It's
you're all right, mate. But I mean, I was a carer for my mother. The council wanted me out of the house in Yorkshire. I ended up moving to Southport and having hernia surgery all in the same year. It was enough. I felt like throwing myself under a train. It was unbelievable. And after the operation, I had major exhaustion issues. I was collapsing with exhaustion. It was unbelievable. They'd misdiagnosed me, actually. I was diabetic, but they'd forgotten. They'd made a mistake, it would appear, and they should have told me that, but they didn't. And anyway, never mind. But the thing is this. Point being, David, is that on a day at my lowest ebb, I went out onto the marine lake and I was exhausted with it all. And I recall very clearly this pink triangle coming in over the lake and hovering there for about 20 seconds, and then flying off, and at the same time this very white, bright light moving right to left or left to right across the lake. And I felt this energy in me increase, and I've never been exhausted again. And a few days later after that, I had to get some rest. I mean, I felt tired. I remember nodding off, and basically I had face-to-face contact with this, what I can describe as extraterrestrial woman, who was just incredible. I mean, she was gorgeous. She had a bald head and everything. That you knew, David, that she was not human, but she was evolved. She was really something else. And to say that they're a threat after seeing that is unbelievable. We're being lied to. And the thing is that Jason Gleaves is doing a model for me of the actual incident as a talk.
Yeah, I've seen some of his models, quite amazing.
Yeah, he's going to do a model, and this pink triangle thing, the lights and her, was absolutely unbelievable. I've never been exhausted since. She's been around. They came back again last year or 2 years ago. Emerald Green UFO came over the rooftops to have a look at me. I knew it was them. They identified themselves as being from Arcturus. There was bloody hell on among them about the fact that I was targeted as well. I have been a targeted individual. And that's the thing, David. Nobody can take that moment away, the Marine Lake and what I saw of that woman. And believe me, I've seen E.T. But this woman in particular has, how can I put it, gone into my mind a great deal, really. She was very lovely, oozed this femininity about her, very graceful, but she knew what I had been through due to a contactee in the USA. And I said to this contact experience in the USA, my God, I'm being targeted, I've lost my mother, I can't cope. Can anyone you're in contact with help me? I know it sounds absolutely hair-raising, David. Even I look back at it and think that's a bit whack. But it's not whack. It actually happened. And it kind of like, it was unbelievable. And she said, I don't know, I will try and contact them. And I was flabbergasted when they turned up and did indicate that they, although they're in their UFOs and very high-tech, they don't actually know everything that goes on sometimes, and this was all news to them. This is what they were selling me. And I can guarantee they've been over. I can guarantee that they're going to come in over the Marine Lake again at some point. I think it's going to happen as well. But I can't communicate to you, David, the vision of her that I had that flies in the face of us being told they're a threat. It just is the complete opposite of everything we're being told. We're being lied to. And America would do well to take a step back and see where its bread's buttered in the wider galactic community. Do you know where I'm going from? Yeah. I mean, their data transfer and computer systems alone could revolutionize mankind.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think we learned something from that you've got a thing for a bald-headed woman, but...
Yeah.
No. Sorry,
I'm blonde, blue-eyed women as well. Yeah, absolutely.
No, sorry.
Oh,
you know me. I can't help but chuck a joke in here. But anyway, no, that sounds actually fascinating. Their craft that they're flying around in, are they not a nuts and bolts type craft, or is it a living type of craft that we hear about?
I think you will find that the thing is their message would be, America has got AATIP. Advanced Aviation Threat Information Program. You look at Big Lou Elizondo, he stands there at a slideshow, he's going through all the list. What is the speed of the UFO? Is it armed? Weapon systems, better flight capability, better attack capability, better artillery capability, destroy, violence, destroy. But as the aliens have hinted at in my 40 years experience, we can do all that, but somehow we won't be able to keep the oceans from flooding our land. And that's the thing. That's the very poignant point that they've made. We can have all this tech for violence, but somehow America would not be able to stop the Atlantic flooding it. They wouldn't have developed that technology, but in other words, what the ET are saying is they're going down the wrong route, and they are going down the wrong route. And that happened, that disastrous escapade happened after World War II, David. And the thing is that nobody's telling me this. I'm getting all this from what's flying over me. And it's just been hair-raising, mate. It really has. I'd better throttle back because I'm getting slightly emotional. I want to hold my reserve.
No, I can tell that. It's the way it flows from you as well, Tony. It's not as if you're sort of making it up as you go along, because it flows too quick. That's what I said to you last time. If you were making things up, you'd be suspect to think about, what can I say next? So that's what kind of impresses me about your story, the way it flows out of you. There must be several groups of aliens that are visiting us. That's what I understand, and I do understand that some are actually quite a threat.
There is, mate. There was a hair-raising situation that I've written about in my book that happened this year to me, and it was absolutely bloody hair-raising. And what it was the presence of what you would call a grey. And in real life, what is written about, Whitley Strieber's actually surprisingly close, which is what shocked me. Reading his material, he's experience with them. Contact experience, there's no others. They just know when somebody has had a contact. And Whitley's work was very interesting, but I'll tell you for why. Because during the incident, David, that happened to me with what we would call a grey, the thing turned up, and it's absolutely, I can't put into words. I was rendered speechless for weeks over what I'd seen. Or rather not what I'd seen, but what I'd felt. And what was going on was it appears that the presence of this thing can affect the reality around you and time. Now, not a lot of people really know that. And what was happening was there was something going on with it, and yet there was something else going on where it was being watched. Technically speaking, it was being policed. That's why I say that it's very difficult to pull off an alien invasion, because there are evolved beings out there. And it was a very strange incident. It really was. And I sensed during that incident, which I write about in my book, that it was seeking, as Whitley rightly says, it was seeking communion. It was seeking a communion. It was seeking to understand divinity. It was seeking something. I wasn't quite sure on what it was seeking, but my God, David, you bloody know about it. It was unbelievable, actually, and I've 40 years of dealing with this. And I'm still rendered speechless by the incident that happened, actually. It's in my book. I just have difficulty articulating it because I think I'm shocked with it.
I can understand that. I do. Well, from what I've heard about the Greys, they actually try to delve into our spirit. And I do understand that they're controlled by the reptilians. Do you believe that?
No, I don't. But from what I see, they're not. No, they are of their own hierarchy. And I have to be careful in this area, but they are of their own hierarchy. And it would appear that they can't go around doing what the hell they like, because there are, as I stress again, other evolved civilizations out there that will not tolerate that. And that's what's going on, hence there being an alien Cold War. And so that's what there is. There isn't we're not so much a threat. A threat is the wrong way to look at it. Observing an alien Cold War is a better way to look at it, because mankind can gain technological advantage from its understanding and wider place in the galactic community. So therefore it then becomes an issue of galactic diplomacy. It really does. So when everybody's criticising Greer for they're not a threat, it's galactic diplomacy, well, he's absolutely correct. It is galactic diplomacy that is the issue here, and where mankind places itself in the years ahead within that community, I think is going to be an issue. When we're dead and gone, Dave, that's what it'll be. There'll be an issue there where they have to, get the bearings in the wider galactic community, I think. Yeah.
Although we could come back, you never know.
Well, we could, mate.
That's for another show, yeah. Have you attempted to speak to Stephen Greer about all this?
Stephen Greer, he knows who I am, mate, but I'm looked at but not noticed. And this is the thing that is quite frustrating sometimes, David, whereby, how can I put it? I'm looked at but not noticed, but yet I'm in the middle of the front line of it all. I'm up to my eyeballs in it. I'm at the sharp end of it. And yet it appears that I sometimes think it's all a waste of time.
Yeah.
I sometimes think that this is insane. I sometimes think nobody is telling me anything. I don't get what's going on. It's a bizarre situation to be in. I'm sure the situation will alter for me, but it's just a bizarre situation to be in. It's 24/7. You've really got to know your stuff. I mean, I'm even doing courses I'm up to do courses in UFOs and the national security state. I'm having to get courses under my belt now to know my onions with it all, to find out what is going on. You see, the Nimitz carrier group incident, David, with the Tic Tac UFO, and the Nimitz carrier group turn up there, and the Navy classed them as a threat. But I mean, what happens if they're not a threat? What happens if they were trying to open hailing frequencies like they do on Star Trek and were attempting communication with them? You got to think like that, you see.
Yeah. I do agree with you. Talk about greys. Could there not be different types of greys? I mean, there could be, because I understand there's a connection between greys and reptilians. So I've been told from other people. I mean, I haven't got first-hand experience of that. But
if you imagine, David, let me create a picture for you here. It might not. I don't know about reptilians. I've never seen one. But if we have a look at back to the picture again, just to explain a bit more of what's going on. A few weeks ago, one of these UFOs that I have filmed flew directly over me near some hotels. Again, it's the same type of UFO, very white ball of light type thing, constantly silent, no noise, but it's always around me. And shortly afterwards, about 3 minutes later, a smaller, less bright dot of light went chasing after it you sensed and got the impression it was some sort of car chase. It was bizarre. But what you were witnessing there was two groups, one of which is on the turf of the other. And it's quite, so, how can I put it? The first UFO that I saw appears to be encroaching on the turf of the Greys. And this appears to be what's going on in the sky, some sort of conflict going on, some sort of Cold War. Although it is the consensus of thinking that such a Cold War, or even any conflict, would be utterly pointless. And perhaps they've made their peace. Hence me having the incident, but yet it being watched over or supervised. Because this being was, I just cannot put it into words, David. I can't even begin, but it's kind of like speaking like this is kind of like, I can't speak English.
Right.
That kind of tone and raspy, it's that kind of vibe, whereas the other kind of experiences that I've written in my book, they're more metallic in speech, as if they're using some sort of computer. It's unforgettable. It really is. So I've had 40 years of that, David, and to have that bearing down on you is quite shocking. But this is where it's taken. This is where these unacknowledged special access projects are going. You see, Stephen Greer is quite correct. There's corruption within them. They just, I don't know, I've said it in public before, David, but turn up on the US government's doorstep with a used UFO, the alien Arthur Daly, with their used UFO, one careful owner, and oh my, there's consequences that we perhaps don't understand as human beings. I don't know. Yeah, but that's my thing.
I understand that. I mean, do you think that, I know there was a particular TV show that you were on, which kind of treated you as a bit of a, forgive me for this, but it treated you as like a bit of a nut. Do you think you've had sort of a stigma that led from that?
Yeah, there is a chortle factor involved in it, David. I think sometimes you've got to be a good sport with it in order to gain a foothold. I don't think you can take yourself too seriously. I mean, from my point of view, I feel the need sometimes to do. I won't mind doing a bit of comedy around aliens because I feel the need to bloody laugh, mate. Because God knows you need a sense of humour. So you really do with all this. So yeah, that has happened, but I'm very strict now, on who I let in around my intellectual property and what they're going to do with it, especially programs that are fronted by comedians I tend to stay clear of.
Yeah.
And the other situation is, of course, David, people who think they work for government agencies, they're a nightmare. They're honestly fantasists. Oh God. Because it's embarrassing, because you're deeply involved in it and you know what's going on, and they don't, and it's quite obvious that they don't, but they pretend that they do, and it's just embarrassing, frankly. It really is.
Okay, well, the answer to your book, when do you think it will be coming out?
This book is going to be coming out probably, I would think, July, and I'm probably going to go down the self-publishing route. And it's going to come out in July, and it talks of the story of my life from the time when I'm walking with the pram to the scrapyard, to the Marine Lake incident, to the other incredible incident that involved like a Jacob's Ladder type event. It was absolutely incredible, David. It hints to me from my UFO experiences the existence of a creator. In fact, CERN at the moment are doing research into atomic physics and quantum physics, and it looks to me like you're looking at the electromechanics of something non-human that has created life itself. And that's what I saw during an incident in Southport, which I write about in my book. There's an actual Jacob's Ladder type incident, and they've constantly referred to that incident of the ETs over the years, constantly referenced it. That I have a mountain to climb, I'm to keep climbing it. Wow. Because it really, sometimes, David, it's not safe. It's not safe work. Even to sit on here and talk about it like I am now is, you've got to be very safe about it, or you've got to be careful what you say. There's not only the element of human ridicule, but there's also forces out there that may misunderstand what you're talking about. That can happen. So you've got to be very careful and very respectful, I do feel,
Sure. Yeah, I understand that. So when you talk about higher, do you believe in that there's a God actually involved in all this as well?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do believe that there is a higher creator. I've had You know, I mean, I make no bones about it, mate. I mean, I came to Southport, I lost everything. And I was a broken man. And I got this lovely flat, I'm in this lovely town, via the church. And there was a local church that I went to, a friend of mine was going to it, and I went to this church. I was a broken man, and the people at this church, they turned me around, and the people who own the property are part of the church, and they have been a tremendous help to me in just becoming a better man, mentally and everything. It's not easy, David. I do have my bad days and have my good days.
Sure.
But you know, it's the power of the Lord and creation is interesting because you're talking about the power of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And you will see in the PR war at the moment on Earth that the darkness, the force of, the dark side of the force seems to have the PR edge. You see it everywhere.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you there.
God, yeah, you do. You have to respect something like that. But on the other hand, the power of the Holy Spirit and the power of creation, the power of the Lord, isn't really seen, but is present. It's like electricity, you can't see it. And that presence, I have felt on 3 occasions now, especially one moment in particular, this year where I thought my life was in danger because of these incidents I was having. Believe me, David, I really did. I won't go into too much detail, but needless to say, I can only describe it as divine intervention coming in. It was breathtaking. Because I worried for my safety when this incident was going on. I was half asleep, and I first woke up to get my mother breakfast, thinking that it was time to cook a breakfast. Suddenly realised, God bless her, that she wasn't here. Fell back asleep again. Kaboom! Something happened, and then something intervened that was far more powerful. And it was like divine in presence, and that has shaped my religious thinking to realise that there is the power of the Lord present. It's a very powerful thing. And I probably wouldn't be sat here now, David, telling you that story if it wasn't for divine intervention as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the way I feel about a lot of that is that I think a lot of it is guided from our spiritual side anyway, and we're all part of one big thing. Yes. If it's, to put it sort of mildly, put it simply. Yes. And that is the God force type of thing. Yeah,
it is. We have a lower dimensional realm around us. It's very active in the morning. So, kind of like 6 a.m. till about 12 midday. Surprisingly, it's quite active. There's been incidents that would actually suggest that there's another realm out there that's interacting with mankind.
Right.
Maybe in not a fair or good way. And that it's been quite active. It's quite active during that time space. I know I've had a couple of psychic attacks when that's happened, and the psychic attacks, David, have not been pleasant. They have not been pleasant at all, and it gives an indication that there is something going on. And it's interesting because I've been studying. This is going to be of great interest to you. Moving away from the extraterrestrial stuff, I've been studying Russia's paranormal warfare program, which nobody has even really heard of in the West. And the thing is, what is interesting about the Russians is their take on extraterrestrials and how they perceive them is very interesting, because they set up a unit, David, called the Special Abilities Unit 10,003, which was led by a genius of a man called Alexei Savin. And the reason how I know this is because, by comical irony, Joseph McMonigal, who's a remote viewer, one of the top US remote viewers, sent me, he just said, get in contact with my KGB opposite number, Alexei Savin. So I did that, and didn't hear anything. In fact, no, the reply I got from them was, Tony, open your heart to them. That was the only reply I got from them. And I thought, and anyway, I looked around, David, I looked, and it's as if I was being guided, and I discovered a whole plethora of information that was out there, it wasn't out there actually, it's quite secretive, it's just knowing where to look. There's copyright stuff on it, and the fact that it is classed as slightly secret, but it was the work of this special unit, And it's interesting because they had Savin, but they also had a guy who was very switched on called Boris Ratnikov, And believe me, David, I don't, what's the word I'm looking for here? I'm not the biggest fan of the Russians, mate. I really are, after what they've done on the UK, so I'm not really flag waving for them, but the story is interesting. Because it appears this guy, Boris Ratnikov, understood these realms very well. In fact, the Russians called it information channeling and information channel operations. So remote viewing to the Russians is known as information channel operations. So when you think about it, that incident that happened to me where I thought I was a goner and something intervened, I was receiving on channel 1, but something from channel 3 intervened. That's how the Russians would see it, like information channels of data.
Right.
So you can imagine, David, that presence in the room, that divine presence, would be harmonically bleeding into other information channels. You turn that around from information channel to parallel universe, and you've got the bloody thing sending signals into other universes as well. So it's quite a thing going on there.
Yeah.
Now, the Russians understood this, and under Ratnikov, he realized that the Russian leadership under Yeltsin may be under the influence of something from these domains that you've just mentioned, David, a few minutes ago, you see. So they developed something called the Department of Mental Security, did the Russians. And this guy, Ratnikov, he was one hell of a character, but they developed it. They psychically protected the Russian Prime Minister and President from undue psychic influence. And as I say, it was called the Department of Mental Security. But there's a whole story within this Special Abilities Unit of how they made contact with aliens. And there's a whole story about how, in their perception, the aliens did not need the United Nations, did not need to meet the President on the White House. They could contact human beings if they wanted to without any form of control. But what was interesting, what this guy said, and he's sadly no longer with us, but he was a genius, he said this about mankind and aliens, that mankind owes nothing to anyone, and that includes aliens, that we owe nothing to them, and we must take our place in the cosmos as separate entities with our birthright to the divine kind of thing. But it was their take, that we owe the aliens nothing, and that our perception of them has to be streetwise, was very interesting. And there's loads of other things that this Special Abilities Unit were perceiving, with their operations that they were doing. It was quite the work of genius. And what is intriguing, David, is that the US military had Project Stargate, and the Russians had, what we call it, information channel operations, they call it. But what was interesting was, it's documented, I've seen the information, there was an active liaison going on between Project Stargate and the Russian Special Abilities Unit that is not documented anywhere. It's there, I've seen the documents, but they're not on the internet anywhere, and it is apparent that Joseph McMoneagle was actively liaising with General Savin, and in fact went over to Russia to join his unit to see if he could learn anything from them, and vice versa. Can you believe that?
Well, not really, but then the other way, there's so many things going on. It's hard to know what to believe and what not to believe. But it does sound believable. Yeah.
This guy, General Savin, he studied every philosophy that was going on. He knew this might be of interest to Juliet. He actually selected women as psychics in his unit. He did, because women had the best intuition, they were good at what they did, and there are accounts, it would appear, from what I've read, of these Russian psychic women having conversations with these ETs. But I asked for the information, but it's never been revealed. But basically the gist of it was, they communicated medical information to the Russians, but not any military information. There was nothing military coming from them. So the Russians actually know that this is happening. And yet, hilariously, Dave, in The Sun, they've got this big headline saying Chinese and possibly Russian, UFOs stormed the Nimitz. The Chinese and Russians did it. And my God, a lie is being told, and it's a whopper.
Yeah. Well, it's just headline grabbing, isn't it?
Innit?
Yeah.
Anyway, there you go, mate. That's my story for what it's worth, you know.
Right.
I just find it absolutely incredible. And this guy, Savin, he's an amazing man. Amazing guy. Yeah, really.
Yeah, it's quite a mind-blowing story, isn't it, Juliet? I mean, it's, and as I say, it's a way
I was about to interject, because you two are just like talking like old blokes. And I'm just sat here going, okay.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Let me speak.
It's the way Tony tells the story. There's sort of no gaps or sort of thinking about it.
Yeah, but he's saying, David, Tony, I'm still here. You can include my name if you like, sweetheart.
Yes, I did say, I know, but I mean, some of the, I mean, it would appear, Juliet, that this guy, Savin, had a team of, he described them as his psychic Amazons. A whole unit, and they were intelligent women. I mean, these women had degrees in psychology, degrees in quantum physics. He wasn't just recruiting anyone. He had a unit there that was really something else, and they were all specializing in psychic warfare. And how to, I mean, there was a whole report I read about them, interrogating the mind of Madeleine Albright, called Walk-in Mind Operations. And in this report it was saying how they were planning what they were picking up from her was they were planning some sort of mineral grab on Russia, which wasn't gonna work, and all that kind of thing, So it's interesting, but the contact with ET, with the Russian military and the ET is very hush. You can't find the info anywhere, and it appears that they're not coming clean about what they actually did, which would fly in the face of the current lie that we're seeing at the moment. You know what I'm saying, Julie? It's just the thing.
I do indeed. I've got a two-pronged question. So, hypnotism. What do you think of hypnotism? Good? Bad?
Hypnotism, I did many years ago, I studied hypnotherapy. And many years ago I worked with Paul McKenna and I studied Erickson. Many years ago this was. So yes, it can help and it can work, I do believe. It really can. But the thing is that if the contact experiencer is traumatized, then you could cause an abreaction. In other words, you could get them to recall a very unpleasant experience that's buried deep in their mind that they really maybe shouldn't be recalling. Do you get me? It could be bad for them in that sense.
Well, yeah, I do actually know what you're talking about because I was taught by somebody called Richard Payne. You can look him up on Pathé, 1949. So I actually do hypnotism. I mean, Dave knows this anyway. The reason I'm talking about hypnotism is, do you think, maybe not, whatever entity or entities that contact you, do you think perhaps they've placed a block or they've opened up the blocks within your conscious mind?
Well, lovey, that's a very interesting thing. Sorry, Juliet, can you just say that again, what you said?
Of course I can say so. Hypnotism. Let's ignore aliens just for the time being.
Yeah.
It can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. I know that. You know that.
Yeah.
Not particularly, and I'll say it, I don't think Paul McKenna's very good. There are other people who are a damn sight better.
Oh, yeah. It's in the 90s.
I'm sorry for listening, Paul.
Yeah, you don't know what he did in Blackpool and got banned. Anyway. This is, you see, I don't care, I'll just get sued. Hypnotism is interesting. To me, it's like you can put blocks. It's like when you can hypnotise somebody to stop smoking. But there are elements, and I think Sasha's talked about this as well. If you've got a block, you can unblock it. But then again, you can bring something out that's not a good thing. So to me, I'm thinking, have the entities, aliens, whatever, have they placed blocks? Or have they taken them away from your consciousness?
Oh, I see, love. Right, okay.
Yeah.
Right, okay. That's a very good one. I'm being mysteriously watched over by something, and I don't know what it is. And I know that whatever it is, the other half of this, if you split it into the good guys and the bad guys, I think that I was a traumatized man. I mean, good God, I was looking after my mother night and day with dementia. I mean, my God. In fact, it led to an incident with one of the UFOs did that. I'll tell you about it, Julia, after this. But it basically, it did. I mean, so say again.
Juliet, it's not Juliet.
So she's very touchy about this Juliet and Julia and Julia.
So yeah, the question, trauma-based mind control. You're gonna have post-traumatic stress disorder. The biggest unacknowledged elephant in the room, including the "we do know what we are" mantra, is traumatized UFO contact experiences suffering post-traumatic stress disorder is an elephant in the room as well. Do you not think?
Like I said, it's one of those you can discuss until the cows come home, but depending on who you speak to, depends what answer you get. Which leads nicely on to the next one. Do you think perhaps there's some form of conditioning that whomever the entities perhaps have placed upon you, but you've not quite reached the fruition of your journey.
No, quite the opposite, Lovey. No, quite the opposite. I've triggered something that caused them. So I'm the cause, not the effect. They're the effect, I'm the cause. So I'm actually the trigger to something, but they're not coming clean on what that is. Let us say something like, for example, from a Russian view, capability to go into a higher information channel. And from that higher information channel, we're getting the equivalent of mysterious incidents happening that could be beyond their comprehension in the UFOs, might be a good route to go down, but it's actually the other way round. And as I say, in the 90s, I had paranormal experiences that were due to me writing this book that I didn't even know I'd write. So you kind of like, it appears that I'm actually the cause of all the incident that's happened due to a book I was going to write that I didn't know I was going to write. How's about that one? That's a conundrum, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, just think they could have visited you in the future and then come back. Yeah. So obviously they knew about the book you were going to write and then came back to,
I tell you what, David, between me, you and the fence post, because obviously there's nobody else.
No, there's nobody else.
Between us.
Probably 20,000 people. But
well, I tell you what freaked me out. What freaked me out was not the aliens. I can handle all that, believe it or not. I've had to deal with that all my life. But what freaked me out was an incident that happened a few weeks ago in a dream I had, and it did freak me out. I thought, wow. And that was, I was wandering around my town in Yorkshire, so I thought, to try and find my old house. And when I got to my old house, where I thought it would be, there was a row of shops, and the house wasn't there. And also I looked around to discover that there was trees where there shouldn't have been, and it just looked completely odd. And the woman came up to me on a bike in this dream, and got off the bike and said, "Are you lost?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And she just went, "The year is 1997, you're in a parallel universe of Oxford. Our Prime Minister it wasn't Johnson, it was somebody else. They'd found a cure for, they'd also had some sort of pandemic, they found a cure for it. And we are approximately 10 to 15 years back in time from you, but not in terms of technology." And the other bit was, they called the veil between our universe and theirs the Iron Curtain. And there was a mystery as to who had put it there. And that freaked me out. It really, really freaked me out that the book I'd written was written somewhere else on a different title. Really freaked me out. And that's my paranormal, and still, David, I've been through all the UFO stuff. I've seen the ET. I can deal with that, but this was something else. The human beings it just was something else. And there you go, but what got to me was the fact that my book is written by a different title in a parallel universe was unbelievable, and that leads on to the stuff that was going on online on YouTube with something called the Beatles Altered Chemistry, whereby guys walking down a beach, just share the story, walking down the beach, he sees another guy who, cut a long story short, tells him he's from a parallel universe and gives him a tape, and on this tape is an album that was published by the Beatles, who never split up from a parallel universe. The thing is, when you look at this on YouTube, some sound engineers are actually baffled by the fact that it's not recorded as in somebody mixing up various soundtracks. What some of these sound engineers can't get their head around is it's done in a studio. It's not mixed recording, it's actually done in a studio, and they're scratching their heads wondering how that has happened. So this parallel universe theme seems to be coming into our society, including that film that they recently did, Danny Boyle's film Yesterday, where he was doing all the Beatles stuff and all that kind of thing. I just found it just quite an amazing thing to share with you aside from the UFOs.
Yeah, it is an interesting concept, I have to say. I mean, do you have any other sort of memories of astral travel experiences that might have
I've seen too much, David.
Yeah.
I've just seen too much, and the answer to that will be yes, but I've seen that much. I've seen far too much for any man, really. And, the answer will be that'll have happened at some point in the proceedings. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I just wonder if you actually remember any of the occurrences apart from what you just sort of related.
No. Sometimes I've got to keep an incident log. I have to currently keep an incident log of all that goes on. Only yesterday in Formby at my girlfriend's house, only yesterday in Formby they came over. And I saw it come in, and it looked like a long silver cigar thing. And then it changed its shape to the bright white kind of light thing. And I just caught it with my phone camera, and Jason Gleaves has done it's on my Facebook page. Jason Gleaves has done an excellent analysis of what it was coming in, and they keep turning up. And they are classed as UAP, of course, unidentified anomalous phenomenon. But David, there's no rest from this. There's no peace for me. And I don't know, A, how long I've got, and B, if I'll go to the grave not knowing answers as to why it happened in the first place,
Yeah. Although, when you do go to your grave not knowing, you probably know once you've got there.
That's very true, mate. That's very true.
If you can get your head around that one.
Yeah, it's very true, mate. So the book's got the amazing art, and it details all my experiences in it, and I must say myself, it is one hell of a read. Yeah.
Oh, it sounds very fascinating. I should be getting hold of a copy as well. I'm sure Juliet will, won't you?
Yes, I will. I saw the original cover, and then you changed. Yeah,
you changed the cover. It did. Have you changed? Because the original cover did have a blonde girl on the front, didn't it?
Yes, that's right. We've changed the cover from it. It was I, Alien, the Secret UFO Chronicles, and we've now changed it to I, Alien, the Mystery of the UFO Enigma.
Right.
And the Chronicles element of it, David, detail time and day when I was being whacked by what can only be described as some sort of very advanced mind-invasive technology. And I kept journals, but there's sections of the journals missing that I can't find anywhere. But it's something like 2008 until the present, and it's like a catalogue of various goings-on that's not seen the light of day, really. They've not seen the light of day until they've been published by me. I haven't even discussed them at my lectures.
Right.
They're just there, and they're the original journals that I've documented. I had a very responsible job at the time. It was all going on, a mega responsible job. I don't know how I kept sane with it, mate, really, sometimes. I really don't.
So if we look on Amazon, can we actually see that for pre-order, or...?
No, not yet, no. I'm going to get that all sorted out. At the moment, David, there's only me doing it, and Neil.
Right.
Neil's a great help. Neil Giddy's Ward has been the editor. But currently at the moment, there's just only me doing the work, and it's a lot of work to do. So I'm slowly getting there. We'll get it all put into EPUB format and get it up and out there, and just see where we go with it from there, really,
Yeah. So once again, for anyone that's going to be interested in getting this book, and I'm sure there will be quite a few, what's it called again?
Yeah, the book is going to be called I, Alien, the Mystery of the UFO Enigma.
Right, so if you'd like to make a note of that, and then keep an eye on Amazon for it, because you reckon it'll be around about July, probably August, something like that.
I reckon so. In fact, even I've got to just check the title myself, mate, because sometimes due to all this stress, your memory is just not quite what it should be.
I know what you mean by that.
Yeah. The correct title is, sorry, David, I, Alien, the Mysterious Reality of the UFO Enigma.
Right. If anyone wants to make a note of that, they know what they're making a note of then, and you can keep an eye out for it.
But the correct title is I, Alien, the Mysterious Reality of the UFO Enigma, and it's all about my clandestine life with the phenomena. The fact that, what the most important part of this book is that it was already written. People knew I'd written it before I had, which I find fascinating,
It's quite... Yeah, get your head around that one.
Yeah, and the other thing I had to get my head around with it, David, between me, you and Juliet, the other thing is the fact that in the parallel universe it's known as Return to the Twilight, and I'm wondering if somebody will send me a copy of it. Can you imagine that coming through your letterbox?
Yeah, a signed copy by you from somewhere else.
Yeah, from somewhere else. What a carry on. Say that again, love.
That'll be good.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, wouldn't it? Yeah, that's what I'm saying, you see, if the Beatles thing is correct on YouTube, Altered Chemistry, an album from a parallel universe, have I written this book in a parallel universe? It's just mind-blowing, isn't it?
In fact, I never knew anything about that Beatles thing, but I'm going to actually look that up now and have a look and see what that's all about.
Yeah, the jury's out, David.
It's very interesting, I must say. And it's kind of hard to get your head round, but once you do start thinking along the interdimensional thing, it's sort of, and you start to realise that everything's sort of side by side, things kind of start to make sense, don't they? Yeah, yes, they do, mate. They certainly
do.
Even though you won't fully understand it, but those things do start to understand, because if you think of like radio waves or television programs all running side by side, and you can skip from one to the other, that's kind of the best way, easiest way to look at it.
Yeah, this is absolutely right. I mean, is it possible that myself in a parallel universe has had different UFO experiences, or rather the same?
Yeah.
I just don't know. I haven't even met me yet in the parallel universe. I don't think I really. You know.
I mean, that's the thing, you see. You could be John Wayne in a film on one channel, and you could be John Wayne in a different part in another channel. So you're the same being, but you're a different part. It's kind of the easiest way to kind of picture that, isn't it?
It was very bizarre, David, when the incident happened to me, and what stood out the most was when they were showing me a park in their world, and the park benches are entirely different to what we have. And it was just odd. That's the bit that stood out. Park benches, different to ours.
Yeah.
It just so bizarre. It really was. And you just, you've got to add a caveat to it. You don't know whether there's some, I don't know. The thought has crossed my mind, although the UFO contact is actually quite real and conquers that bit. But sometimes in the early days, I did wonder if some military outfit was experimenting with artificial reality.
With your mind, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got to say, I've had the experience when you've pictured something all your life, well, for most of your life, about something that you knew from childhood or something. You go back there many years later and it's nothing like you remember it. That's right. I've had that a few times. And you think, well, it's just nothing like I've remembered it all this time. Whether it is just your mind that plays tricks on you. I mean, in your case, it doesn't sound like it.
No, in my case, mate, it's just sort of one accident. They're extreme. If your listeners want to look at the work of somebody called Rhea H. White, and her work on exceptional human experiences, or EHEs, it's a phenomena where there are people out there like myself who've had extreme experiences with this and don't quite know why it's happening, but they're known as EHEs, or exceptional human experiences. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, very scary stuff, some of it, I know.
It is.
Well, Tony, thank you very much for coming back on the show and making it a very entertaining and very interesting show again. You got anything else, Juliet, you'd like to ask Tony or mention?
Well, we're friends on Facebook if I think of anything. And one of these I'll sort of read, absorb, leave it 6 months to 12 months and then go, hello.
This is another one of those shows that's gone very quickly, isn't it? It's been sort of full of interesting artifacts and things. But anyway, Charlie, thank you very much for coming on and sparing the time on this hot evening.
Yeah, you're all right. I hope I've been as candid as possible. I'm a Yorkshireman. I say it like it is. And I've no doubt, David, in the days ahead, I'm going to film something again. Yeah. No doubt. So keep an eye on Facebook for when it pops up.
Anything interesting comes up, I'll put it on the Paranormal Dimensions page for anyone to have a look at. I'm sure I'll find a few tidbits to put on there. Yeah. But, as I said before, Tony, I hope we get to run into each other again at some point.
Of course.
Because we've all been locked away this year quite a bit, and
of course.
We're running into year 2 now, so.
No, we have. It's been. I mean, I've got a little presenting job on local radio here, which has been quite an achievement, So I've achieved a hell of a lot since leaving my town in Yorkshire. I never thought the book would be written. I'm very proud of it, actually. The level of work and slog that's gone into it, and I am very proud of it. So
that's good.
I hope that people enjoy it, even if they think it's science fiction. They might think they're reading a science fiction novel, but it ain't.
Well, you're going to get a few people that will say that. Obviously, you're always going to get your critics. I mean, I even have critics. Blimey, it's it's just one of those things that goes with it. But okay, we'll give you what's your radio show? Give that a plug while you're at it.
Yeah, okay, mate. Well, I'm on Mighty Radio. I'm on Wednesday evenings, a show called the Midweek Shindig on mightyradio.co.uk. That's 107.9 FM if you're in this neck of the woods. And I present a breakfast show as well on a Sunday morning. And the radio station are very pleased with me. They say I've got a very unique sound. So, you know, I do all that. There again, I suppose I did go to drama school and was voice trained, and that's come in handy. So, that was hilarious in itself, really. I mean, they did John Gielgud's, is it John Gielgud's granddaughter or niece or I was taught voice, but she had a stunt dog, David. She had this terrier that was a stunt dog, and it was very clever. Oh my God, what she used to do. Yeah. Great little doggy it was, bless it. Anyway, there you go, mate. That's the score.
Excellent. Right, so anyone in the area, you've got Tony's shows you can have a listen to as well. So, what could be better? Okay,
thank you,
we'll leave it there. Thank you, Tony, and it's brilliant talking to you. Perhaps this time next year or something, and you'll come back on again and see. Tell us what else has been happening.
So, well, yes, I think, David, with my psychic abilities, I think we might be talking sooner than that when the book's published and all the bloody that's going to go on with that.
Good. Okay, yeah.
I think so. See if my prediction's correct.
All right. Of course, stay in touch and let me know what's going on.
I will, no problems at all.
But between then and then, you take care of yourself, Tony. Thank you.
All right, mate.
You too.
Thank you, both.
You too, Juliet. Thanks a lot. Cheers. Good night, all. Bye-bye. Right, you've been listening to Paranormal Dimensions on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. I'm David Young. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you. Good night.
Paranormal Dimensions is as bright and powerful as our celestial star, the sun. And although it's expending thousands of pounds of energy every minute of the day, have no fear. There's plenty left.
Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK Radio Network.